make sure to put your name on the back with a Sharpie marker, not on the canvas part, but on the back of the frame. When you have your canvas completely constructed and it's nice and smooth, you need to put a primer coat on it, and we call that gesso. That's the name of the primer coat that we use. If you don't use the gesso, the canvas is very absorbent and your colors will bleed into each other when you paint them on. So I've got here a little bit of gesso, and you want to make sure that you're using the stuff that says gesso quart. Don't use the stuff that says titanium white. That's paint. It's a little bit different. You want to use the gesso. So then I also have a large gesso brush, and I also have a little cup of water. So the first layer of gesso that you put on is going to be very watered down. That's going to help it to go on smoothly. So I always like to just take a wet brush and just get the canvas a little bit wet to begin with. Don't make it sopping wet. You don't need that. So now the first coat here, as I said, is going to be very watered down. So what I like to do is I'll get some gesso on the end of my bristles, and then I actually get a little water on it. And then I kind of scrub it on like this. You want to really make sure to blend out all those little streaks immediately. Don't leave any streaks on and think that you're going to come back and smooth them out later, because they won't smooth out and they will show through. Be aware of the flip factor. Don't go flipping it in all directions because you're going to splatter everybody with gesso. Once you have a very thin layer painted down, paint a second layer on more thickly. And you'll probably need to get a little more gesso for that. Having that thin liquid layer is what's going to make your second layer go on much more smoothly. So I'm not using a whole lot of extra water with this second layer because my canvas is already pretty wet, and you'll see that's really helping it to go on smoothly. When you are pretty sure that you've got the whole thing pretty evenly covered, at this point this looks pretty good. I could go over it a second or a third time if I wanted to make it a little bit whiter. And you would do that while it's still wet. Also, don't forget to get the sides. And I think that that just kind of makes it a little more even. Also, if you do not care to frame your canvases and you want to have just a painted finished edge, this is kind of a nice way to do it. Because then you've got gesso, and then you can either go over your edges with just a solid color. Sometimes people even wrap their image around the edges. That's kind of picky, but you can do that. But make sure you get the edges all the way around primed. Make sure to really wash out your gesso brush. This one was not super well washed out. It's got some hard gesso stuck in there. Put this on the big drying rack and make sure you leave 2 racks in between. Otherwise, sometimes they stick together and you get an imprint of the rack. That is how to prime a canvas.